Live for another episode of our Pre-Symposium Panel as we lead up to our December 7th Executive Symposium in Dallas, Texas. We're here to talk about how to find new ways to grow. So as we pivot, as we make iterations, as we grow our business, how do we both grow not only our business, but also how do we grow our people when we do need to make pivots? Not necessarily to say that the pivots are a bad thing, but sometimes in business and when economic shifts happen and when we look for new innovative ways to grow our business, we have to pursue them. But also with that, we have to get our team to get along with us because sometimes they become accustomed to some of the work that we've been doing and the way that we've been doing that work up until this point. So we've got three incredible guest panelists with us here today. We've got Sharon, Paige, and Christy. These are all leaders that are going to be at our executive symposium in Dallas on December 7th. So if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, one, I'd love to meet these three incredible leaders, but I'd also love to come to this event. Look in the comments section. We will have the link to RSVP there. Would love to see you there. I'm Garrett Mintz. I am the founder of Ambition in Motion. At Ambition in Motion, our vision is a world where the vast majority of people are excited to go to work. When they are there, their expectations meet reality. And when they come home, they feel fulfilled. And we believe that starts with leaders because leaders create the experiences employees have while at work. And so we create technologies and communities to empower leaders to be their best selves. Sharon, Paige, and Christy, do you mind introducing yourselves? Sharon, do you want to go first?
Of course. Sharon Adams. I'm a partner and director of business development for Thomas Edwards Group. We're an executive search firm that's based in Dallas with offices in Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, and 2024 in Houston. Our specialty is placing professionals in accounting, finance, IT, and HR spaces on a permanent basis and on a contract basis. And I am delighted to be here. Thank you for having me, Garrett.
Of course, of course. Paige, how about you?
Hi, I'm Paige Mejia. I am the co-owner and chief marketing officer for Pyrotechs. We are the oldest Texas-based professional firework display company. Started in Carrollton in 1979, and now we are based in a little town called Leonard, where we have 80 acres of cows and fireworks living in harmony. We do the big 4th of July shows, Christmas displays, as well as weddings, corporate events, festivals, birthday parties, gender reveals. We've done a couple of funerals. I think a divorce party is the only thing we haven't done. But also concerts, theatrical productions. We're actually doing a production of Mean Girls this week for a high school theater production here locally. And we used to be international. Now we kind of just service the Texas area, but we have fun doing it.
Very nice. Any divorcees out there?
Call me. It's my bucket list item. I need to check that one off.
Very nice. And then Christy, how about you?
Hi, I'm Christy Honeycutt. I'm the SVP of Strategy and Execution for a recruitment automation company. We're global, and we help accelerate talent outcomes for HR, and talent acquisition teams. We take an applicant to offer. Our speed to record is 40 minutes from application to offer. So we're saving our clients money. We're expediting speed to contribution of workforce. I'm happy to be here.
40 minutes. That's pretty quick. Well, that's awesome. Well, let's dive in, y'all. Topic is how to find new ways to grow. So I want to ask you about the successes that you've had in terms of identifying opportunities for pivoting, but also some of the mistakes that you've made and how you've gone about rectifying this. I think as leaders, we have to be nimble. So we have to know what are the things that are coming down the pipeline, but all the pivots we make don't always work out. We have to get some of our team to buy into some of the pivots that we make. And when we make a mistake, we also have to own when we were like, darn it, we messed up, but we still have to stay optimistic or open-minded to when new pivots come around. I would love to learn your experiences. What have you found to be, one, effective for making pivots, and what you've learned from getting people to buy into said pivots once you've determined you want to move forward with that? And when you've identified that a pivot, it isn't working out, how do you go about pulling back, but still keeping the confidence up of your team? Who wants to go first?
I'll start. So our company is obviously a little bit different, a little niche, but definitely during 2020, the events industry was the first industry to go. And we were pretty much the last ones to come back. So that was a huge year for us, not only in the fireworks realm, but in the event industry as a whole. And we saw people just kind of looking at gaps. What were gaps in the industry? There's actually a DJ in our area who saw that there was no neon sign maker here. And so he found a distributor in China and he started selling neon signs and he's making a killing now. So there was just these different things that you kind of have to look at. Like I said, we are on 80 acres in Leonard. And so we looked at possibly having some drive-in movies at our farm, or we actually offered more photo opportunities where people could come out and do their engagement pictures, do their family pictures out at our facility with fireworks in the background. Just different things that you kind of have to think, what is something that somebody could want? And that's kind of how every business grows anyway. It's someone that finds a need in the industry and says, hey, I could make money doing this. I know that's kind of how we started. Our original founder was actually in television production, and his business was going to be going out of business, the company that he was working for. So he started calling around and he landed the Bee Gees Staying Alive tour in 1979. And so that was actually our first client. And so that's it. You just kind of have to learn and grow. And I think it forced everyone to reprioritize what they were doing, how they were treating their employees as well, because we know, especially in the gig economy, it's really hard to keep those employees, because now they realize, is it worth getting out of my house for $15 an hour or $20 an hour? So we have to look at that as well. Not only, how you're treating them, but what they're doing. Is what they're doing fun for them? Is it worthy? Is it beneficial? Is it something that, they want to get out of bed for? And it's the same thing on pivoting what the customers want. Is that something that, someone's going to get out of bed and buy? So I think 2020 definitely changed everyone's mindset.
That's awesome.
I love. Oh,
No,
go ahead.
Christy. I was gonna say was I love that. I've got some follow-on questions, but yeah, Christy, jump in.
No, I love that Paige kicked it off because she just lit my brain up like fireworks. Boom. No, it's for me, it's a little bit different because it's not only pivoting in leadership and personally, but it's also pivoting within the market because I'm repping something that wasn't really in existence prior to 5 years ago. And we've gone through so many changes within our environment to, what Paige mentioned is, do they want to get up and go to work? And the gig economy is so volatile that if they're not getting caught in 48 hours and over into your bucket for potential employment, then you're missing out on them. So it's a little bit of pivoting, not only in the market, but helping candidates think differently, but also helping businesses think differently and not being fearful of automation and AI and all the things that come with it. So we're having to pivot quite a bit on both sides to help businesses and potential employees see the benefit of new technology. And then with that comes a lot of testing, what's working, what doesn't. And it's really for the fearless because those are the ones that are leaning into it.
So I would imagine some of those pivots are the way that you're messaging and communicating your value proposition to your prospects. How have those pivots gone? Where'd you start and I guess what I'd be curious to know is when you made the pivots in your messaging, how did your team react to those changes in the messages?
So my team is really fantastic. We have a team of collaboration. And so we want different points of view. And so because each of the team are working on different pathways of the business, they do have a different point of view. So my marketing director has one point of view, sales team has a different point of view, your C-suite has a different point of view. And it's all the conversations, everything we're seeing, social proof in the market, coming back together, what's working, what's not, what are you hearing from your customer, what are their pain points? And so it does help you lift and shift when you do identify the pain points, and then you can just help them understand the value based on what they perceive as their pain points.
And I think also for the companies themselves, like for the bosses, for the leaders, for the salespeople, especially, it kind of made you focus on who's your ideal client. client and kind of going after them versus just kind of throwing your service out there and seeing what sticks. That's a big shift. And we actually had an entire conversation yesterday about it during one of my lunches. And it was, how can you see the different people? How can you analyze your ideal client to market directly to them so that you're not wasting your time either? And you have a reason to get out of bed in the morning and go to work and service those ideal clients that you actually want to serve.
It's a constant refinement, right? So constant testing, refinement, what's working, what's not, what's resonating, what's not. But it's all about hitting the bullseye as accurately as you can, because if you're doing that, you're bringing value to your client, but also to yourself, instead of maybe going around a circular drain and not going anywhere. I agree with you.
Sharon, what are some of the pivots you've made, and what are some of the things that you've learned in the process of making some of those pivots?
Mm-hmm. Well, what's resonating with me when I'm hearing the ladies talk is, it isn't just pivoting in our own business, right? Learning, we've been successful, right? Just say prior to 2020, maybe not happy here, right? Because it's fairly new, but you have an established way that you go about business and you've been successful in the past. And 2020 comes along and you're forced to look at things differently. You're forced to pivot. And if you're not careful and you're just myopic and you're only focused on your own company and how you're going to pivot, you probably won't pivot in the right way, because you've got to look at your customers and how your customers need to pivot, right? Are we all kind of weary about hearing about AI and how it's going to change things? But boy, it's true, and it doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be something that replaces everybody. But boy, what an opportunity to take what's the best of whatever pivot is you're faced with and just make the most of it. I think we were all moving toward the ability to work remotely, but boy, at different, and it would have taken us another couple of years before we all eventually did it. But boy, we had the rug pulled out from underneath us, and we had to do it, and we had to do it fast. And everybody handled it in different ways. And so I think that sometimes those pivots that you think you're making and that are very well planned, then the rug gets just pulled right back out from under you again. I think some of the things that we've tried to do and try to learn. So we place people on a direct hire basis. You have a full-time opening, we'll come in on a contingent basis and help you find that person. Or if you need somebody on a contract basis, we'll come in and do that, right? Primarily our customers are our companies, our corporations, right? Well, with this gig economy, with a little bit of an aging workforce, with a lot of people that have a lot of talent, you're seeing a lot of these fractional businesses start up. I mean, fractional CHROs, fractional CFOs, fractional CMOs, right? That have the ability and expertise to go in and help those small and growing, maybe struggling businesses with a little bit of expertise without them hiring somebody on a full-time basis. A lot of those people we call them single shingles, right? They'll go out and they're trying to build their business on their own. Well, we didn't go out to try and help those people build their business, but because of the relationships that we have, there were a lot of CFOs that called us and said, "Hey, I'm trying to help this particular client with some strategy, but their books are a mess." Right? They haven't, right? And do you have somebody that we might be able to bring on into their client and help them, right? Well, it sort of created this third line of business for us, right? So we can sort of be in the pocket of these fractional CFOs and these fractional CIOs and these fractional CHROs that are out building their own business. And what we've told them is when somebody asks you if you can do something, don't say no. Say, let me call you back, right? Because we have a machine. We've been around for 26 years. We interview 150 people a week, right? Could you tap in to our database of people that are looking for work? Can we deploy someone that needs work to a place where you need help, make it cost effective? And we're sort of like a virtual bench. That was something we didn't go to the market thinking we are going to do this, right? It was something that sort of happened organically. And so we sort of had to pivot and come up with some maybe new pricing. Wow, there's a lot of people that we could help. So did it change our marketing just a smidge? Well, it did. It didn't take away from our core business, but we also learned along the way that we couldn't just deliver the same thing the same way we've always done it.
That's interesting. I like that example, Sharon. I'm going to come back to that because Paige, and this is relevant to all of this, but Paige, you brought up something that I thought was really fascinating that I think transcends all industries when any pivot is made. So you asked the question, well, you brought up the point of, is it fun for them? i.e., is it fun for your employees to do these things? And I would imagine that you have some people on your team that are like, I only do big time events. If it's not the 4th of July, New Year's Eve, or Christmas, or some big event, and it's got a bunch of fireworks, I'm not doing this whole pamby-wamby, engagement kiss with the firework. I don't do precision shots. It's like, what choice do you have right now? Like, people aren't like going out at this juncture right up to the pandemic. Like, you don't have a choice of like New Year's Eve or the 4th of July. Like, people are in their houses, not going anywhere. So either you're doing this or you're not doing anything. But this, I think, translates a lot of industries. I mean, I was talking yesterday to one of our leaders in our mastermind group, leads a tech team, and he's got a person on his team that wants to do a lot of like SQL, experimental database, analysis. And he's like, great, I love that you want to do that. But that's like maybe 15% of the work. The other 85% is doing a lot of this, not necessarily repetitive, but just, stuff that maybe this person already has an expertise in and doesn't like doing as much. I think this transcends a lot of our industries. And so how do we go about balancing is it fun for our employees to make this pivot, or is it fun for our employees to try this new thing while also handling the realities of the business? I know some people are going to dive right in and be like, yes, I love learning new things. But there's a lot of people that are like, I only do this. This is what you hired me for. It's like, I get it. Based on the circumstances we were in XYZ number of years ago when we first hired you, that is why we brought you in. But the business has changed. The marketplace has changed. Economics have changed, and we're changing with it. Either you're on the boat or you're not on the boat. But you don't want to be I guess, how do you come up with a effective way of communicating this to people that gets them excited, keeps them realistic, and doesn't necessarily turn them off? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. And I think as a leader, you have to be flexible. You have to understand your employees and what their limitations are. And you have to have a diverse workforce that can cover all of the needs that you have. For us, we, at one point after 2020 was over, all of our employees who were scrambling to do every show they possibly could because we were the only person paying them at the time, they stopped working for us. They stopped signing up for shows. And we were working literally 24/7, because we were working our, obviously corporate job as far as the sales, the permits, the back end running of the business. Plus we were having to work all of the shows because we just didn't have employees that were signing up to work things. And I actually was on one show over on the Fort Worth side with a gentleman who started kind of complaining about how he wasn't getting a lot of shows. And I kind of wanted to pop him in the nose because I was like, we have shows. We have so many shows. You can work all the shows. Please, please, please take my shifts. And it was the fact that we didn't have a lot of shows on the Fort Worth side, and he lived in Mansfield. And so for him, it was the having to pay the gas and do the time to drive over to the Dallas area that he just didn't want to do. So that was the thing. It wasn't that we didn't have enough shows for him to work. We just didn't have enough shows near his house. And same thing, we have one pyrotechnician right now who is unable to do the fireworks side of it, just due to some personal issues that she's having. So we actually have a special effect that's a really quick and easy job that she can do. And it works with her time. It helps her out because she's able to work for us in those times that she needs to. And that's an entire shift. We only need one person to do that one job, and that's a job that she can do. So I think that's it. You kind of have to find, you get a diverse workforce that can do all of the different things, and then you put them where they fit best and where they're going to support your team the best.
I think it's important too that when you pivot and you ask them to pivot, that they understand why, right? That it isn't just, I need you to do this because I need you to do this. It's just like with your kids, right? It's so easy to just say, well, Mom, can I go do that? No, right? And instead of, no, because blah, 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 blah. Now, as parents, we don't have to do that, but sometimes it goes a lot smoother. And also to give them any kind of additional training or support, because they may be coming to it from a position that they don't have a lot of confidence. This is different. And you can't just assume that they don't want to, or they have a bad attitude or whatever, right? Sometimes they don't think through problems or changes as holistically as we should be as leaders. And that's part of our job, I think, is to make sure that they understand why we're asking them to do this. If we think it's only temporary, look, I know this is not your favorite thing to do, but the business needs you to do this. Let me give you a little bit of extra training. Maybe with the guy that didn't want to drive, maybe all he wanted was, hey, you know what? I'll give you a gas card, right? Every time you, right, whatever it was. And that might have just changed his attitude. So I think it's getting them to buy in as best as they can and providing them any kind of training, and just so they understand that you're not just saying, well, now I want you to do this. Sorry, you don't like it. Suck it up, buttercup, right? It just that doesn't usually work.
I love that you said that, Sharon, because as I was listening to you and Paige speak, it's all about reframing it, right? And as leaders, if we're asking someone to pivot, you kind of need to give them a framework that, like, why, the framework of how to execute it, because it might be new, it might be a little bit intimidating. You want them to be successful. And then also be empathetic leaders, understand where they're coming from. Like, I think that's a great point. Maybe Paige did offer a gas card, but it's listening to them and hearing their concern. And if you listen, they're going to tell you what it is, and then finding a way to help them feel purpose driven within that role. And then what is their impact on the larger business? And I used to work for a company long time ago, Connexa, and we used to say, if it doesn't sell, don't do it. So whenever we were looking at pivots, we always kept that in mind. If it doesn't sell, we don't do it. So I think that I love what you guys said.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just like Sharon said with the gas card, we actually offered, I think in 2021, we started benefits for our lead pyrotechnicians, because we were having an issue with people not wanting to go get your license, because you have to go get a license through the state, or you have to go get your driver's license through the DPS, which is a special commercial driver's license with hazmat endorsement. And we were just having a lot of trouble with people not wanting to go and do that extra step to get that. So we actually started offering compensation for leads for the shows as well. So bonuses, that kind of thing. And our leads do get, some little special perks throughout the year as well. And we found that has encouraged them to step up and be a leader in the organization as well.
Well, Paige, you brought up something interesting. And I think I've seen this in other companies too. you've got a pyrotechnician at a pyrotechnic company, but they don't do pyro. So you've created a very specialty task. This person must be a cultural rock. They must be somebody who's amazing for the culture, because if they're in any way a jerk, or even not a jerk, just maybe just kind of like average, and it's a work job that's pretty easy to do, like it's got to be pretty hard to justify keeping someone like that on board, because you created a very specialty task that like maybe other people could easily do or like enjoy doing that. Like it, I guess, how do we not breed entitlement within like creating these specialty types of roles? And it's like finding that fine line between like wanting to be their best for our team members and our employees, but at the same time, if we create special privileges for one person, that's mistreating everybody else on the team too, because now it's not necessarily fair to everybody else that you've got one person who's doing the technician non-pyro work that maybe is a little more arduous. I don't know what the logistics are for that, but there's something going on that causes her not to be able to do that. You know, you would hope that this person brings other things to the table for the business that makes it like, of course we have to have this person on board. Like there's, yeah.
And ours, obviously, since ours is a little bit, we're a smaller company, obviously. And so we are more like a family. But I think for bigger companies, I mean, even when I was in corporate America, they could theoretically run their company like this as well. It doesn't really matter the size. It doesn't matter. It's more the culture of the company itself. And we have had her for years. I actually think she probably started before I did. So she's been with us for about 10 years. Her brother worked for us before her. So it's kind of like an all in the family thing. And, you treat your family a certain way, unless they're a pain in the keister, because as some family is, and that can happen in the company as well. But when you do that, when you treat your company like a family, you treat them like brothers and sisters. We've had people that have been with us for over 25 years. And again, it's a part-time job for them. It's a side gig for the most part. They're just doing it more because they like to blow stuff up. So, but there's something that keeps them coming back all of the time. And it's the culture. It's how we treat them. It's the fact that we are like a family. And we always said, kind of how we hire is kind of the same way. We very rarely go outside of the family. It's kind of like the mob. But we bring in from the family. So most of our pyrotechnicians that come in do know one of our other pyrotechnicians when they first get there. So they, ride share and they talk to each other throughout the year, and we have fun. And I think that can happen in any company.
Paige, may I ask a question? I'm just, you talked about diversity of skill set, which I am 100% aligned with. But you also referenced it's kind of the family and people are coming in. Is there a little bit of, how is the diversity of outside of the skill set, how is the diversity of your employee population? Because if it's constant referrals from within the family, is that more like for like?
Very similar, yes. We have a lot of people who are in the same industries. Theater, for instance, most of us were in theater at some point in our lives. We had a lot of engineers that were coming in. At one point, we had a lot of firefighters that were coming in, and police officers, teachers, that kind of thing. So just, more people that have the opportunity to have a side gig, and do have that flexibility in their full-time jobs as well. But yeah, it is. But it's getting a little bit more diverse. Age wise, definitely we are very diverse. We go from 18 to, if our oldest isn't 80, they're getting there. And same thing with males and females. We were very male dominated when I first started in 2011. And now we have a lot of, really the majority of my crews that I work are all female. So it's been kind of growing from there as well.
I think you have to make sure that there's a business case also, right? Like probably, even though you're a smaller family-owned business, this lady, there's a business case for her to still be there. She's not just dead weight right? We have right.
Definitely.
You have 4 or 5 different. We have 4 or 5 different functions at our company, and some of them may be more attractive than others, right? And there's only so many of a certain function that we can have in our company. And just because someone raises our hand and says, that looks like a lot of fun, if you only need 2 people doing that function, and there's someone that wants to do that function, there has to be a business case for that, right? I think you can create a lot of animosity if you just start willy-nilly moving people around. So I mean,
Well,
our
and one
our
example.
business is run by a bunch of CPAs. Okay, so we're gonna run everything through cost benefit analysis, and is there a return for what it is that we do? But I think we treat our people like family, and we have people that have parents that are aging and they want to spend more time with them, and so will we make accommodations? Of course, but we can't just make accommodations and not have some kind of business case that supports it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if our profitability comes down and our business isn't as successful, then there's 50 people that don't have a job, right? So you have to keep in mind the business and make sure that it flourishes so it can support those.
Well, I think like one example that is I see this all the time. That's like I don't know, the big example that I see happening all the time in all industries across the board: bad promotions. Or rather, you promote someone, you're like, oh, you're so great at sales manager. You're so great at operations manager. Oh, you're great at this thing. We're gonna push you to the next level. And they're like, yeah. And you're like, yeah. And then you're like 2 months later, you're like, oh geez, this was a bad promotion. And you know it, and they're maybe know it, maybe they're a little delusional, like it's just not working the way you were hoping. And then how do you backtrack? And so sometimes what I'll see is they'll be like, hey, so we're going to keep your compensation the same, but you're going to now report to this person. But then you've got these all people who report to this one person, but you've got this person at a way elevated comp rate because you wanted them to be the manager in that previous role. And so you've got this weird, interesting dichotomy. How do you handle that sort of situation? Like what have you found to be effective? What have you found to be ineffective?
I think you don't put somebody in a promotion unless you have a training and coaching and mentorship program, because you're setting them up for failure. And frankly, you're an idiot if you do so. Like I don't understand that. That frustrates me with 20 years of recruitment experience to do something like that. And I have seen people fail, and I have seen people be put in management positions for optics, right? Is it are we promoting a female because this team over here is all male led? Are we promoting somebody that's diverse because we need someone on the team? And that's great if you're doing it for difference of thought and bringing in a different culture and to help elevate the business. But if you're not supporting them, if you're not giving them the time and the respect and the roadmap, you're not doing yourself any favors either. Success is a consequence of doing things the right way.
But this happens all the time, Christy. This is not like I mean, when you say like, frankly, you're an idiot for doing it, I'm like, I would say 90% plus of businesses are being idiots then, according to this like statement, which I see it all the time where people are promoted and then they're like, oh, we're stung on that one, and they don't know how to handle it. But I don't know, Paige, Sharon, what have you found to be effective for just handling we were optimistic about you, but it didn't really work out the way we wanted it to?
So I think you have to have that discussion of, is that the right place for them? I mean, obviously, if you have, you did see something in them to put them to that level. And hopefully you did do the coaching and training to get them there and set them up for success in that level. But once they get there, it's just not the right fit. And I've seen this more on boards. I've been on industry associations for years and years and years. And I see that where, there's somebody that was put into a social media role that didn't even have a Facebook page themselves. And they just needed a body to stick there. And it's like, why would you do this to this poor person? Because they knew that they were setting them up for failure. And I think it's just more coaching, more training, sitting them down and asking them, like, are you happy in this role? Is this what you want to do? Can we find you? I mean, obviously the money's nice and you don't want to, fire them or, demote them in any way, but maybe there's something laterally that they can do in another department that would be a similar role, but would actually play to their strengths that they need. So I think it's just a communication issue of talking to them and talking to their manager and seeing what exactly is going on. And sometimes my husband's actually a regional manager. And I know for him, sometimes it's just people aren't playing well in the sandbox. And that person could be trying to do an amazing job and the other people just don't like them for whatever reason. And so the other people in their team are shooting them down enough where now it's looking like they're not doing their job when they really are trying really hard.
I like that. And I think in an ideal world, that makes sense, Paige, but I don't think everybody is as self-aware as you're assuming. So you go to someone and say, how do you think the role is going? They're like, it's going great. In fact, I know not everyone's as self-aware as what you're assuming, because we've got our like AIM Insights program where we see perception gaps all the time, where managers like, I think you're here. And they're like, well, I think I'm here. And all the time it happens. So when you have a scenario when like, it's going great, I posted on my LinkedIn, everybody's congratulated me, I love the pay bump, every time I go to a family event, they're always like, great work, you're killing it in your job. You're like, great, awesome, I'm glad that you're so excited about it, because this, it's not working out. I guess, Sharon, what have you found to be effective when you got a bad promotion and the person isn't self-aware enough to recognize it's not going well?
Because I'm a CPA, right? Because I have a business brain, I think it's all about feedback. It's all about it, and it's also measurables, right? In the EOS model, it's right seat, right bus, right seat, right? Do they want it? Do they get it? Right. And do they have the qualifications to do it? So many times over years and years and years, we haven't trained people to be leaders. We haven't trained people to be managers. We just train them to do what it is that they do, and they do what they do for a long enough time, and they get really good at what they do, and then we promote them. But we're not providing mentorship and leadership training and looking at what their strengths are, whether you use strength finders or the disc or whatever it is, right? Using tools that are available to identify what their core natural strengths are. Every one of us on this call have core natural strengths, things that pour out of them, and we don't even have to think about it. And then there's other things that we know aren't our strength, and you consciously work on those, right? You look at your spouse or you look at your best friend and you go, man, you make that look so easy. Right? It's hard. That's hard for me. And identifying those things early and helping them with it. But if you've already got them there, it really, I think, is about measurables, right? Like, okay, this is what I expected, and we're not getting there, and giving them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because really, if you're the one that put them there, you should take some responsibility too for mentoring them and helping them grow, right? Your peer-to-peer mentoring, right? It's an awesome program, right? Providing them tools so they have the ability to get there, but at some point if you've talked about what your expectations are and where they are or aren't meeting them, try to provide information and tools for them to get there. At some point, something has to change. It's not good for your business. It's not good for the person that's in the role. And it's certainly not good for the people that are underneath that person that's in the role. You're doing everybody a disservice. So I'm in that corner of, if you're going to make a change, if you're going to deliver bad news to somebody, that it should not be a surprise, right? That it isn't, oh my gosh, I'm doing so great and I love the money and woohoo, I'm doing great. I know there are gaps, but I think it's incumbent upon the leaders of the organization that have promoted these people to make sure that they know it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not good at what you do. It's, gosh, we really need to work on whatever it is that your weakness is, because it's pervasive. If you've got this person in a leadership position, it's not just that person that you're doing the disservice to, it's everybody that's underneath them.
How would you define the difference between natural strengths and skills? Because like, I don't think being a great leader is necessarily something you're born with. I mean, I was, I've been out of business school for almost 10 years now. It was teaching everybody how to be like a widget in the mission, how to do accounting, how to balance the books, how to do marketing reports, how to do financial analysis, but like not very much was on like how to work through human challenges of leadership that you're facing with your teams. And I think, I don't know, I would be curious to know, what do you think the difference are between like skills and natural strengths?
Well, I think there are some, we were talking about maybe one of the leadership myths, and that's one that I don't believe, is that leaders are born, right? That just leaders. Now, do I believe that some people have natural leadership ability? Yes. But can an introvert be a leader? Heck yeah. Right? They have listening skills that are mad listening skills, right? That every extrovert could take a cue from. Sometimes empathy and organizational ability and project management and focus and things like that. I think there are a lot of talents like that, and work ethic and some problem solving and empathy. I don't know that you can affect, if somebody on a scale of 1 to 100 is a 10 in empathy, for you to think that anything that you do is going to move them to the other end of the spectrum, I think that's unreasonable. But can we move them? Can we move them a little bit in that empathy scale? But project management skills or problem solving skills or things like that, do I think we can move them from one end to the other? Oh, heck yes. Yes, I can. So some of the natural abilities, I think, are some of those things like work ethic and empathy and attitude, right? You give me somebody with a good attitude and a sense of urgency and a willingness to learn, I want them on my team all day long. Because if you have those things, it's my belief you can teach them to do anything. So, just through coaching, and I believe a lot in coaching, especially if you're going to promote somebody into a leadership position, that you should think enough of them, if they're a leader in your company, that you're going to invest some time and some energy into them. It sets everyone up to fail if you just say, okay, well, great, you get to be promoted now, and now you have 5 people underneath you. Peace out. Good luck.
Sharon, you said something that resonated with me. So my grandpa used to tell me this all the time. And he said, he'd call me sis. He said, sis, you always need to be in the middle. You always need to be pulling somebody up below you. And you always need to be reaching and being pulled up by somebody above you. If you're constantly in the middle, you're continuously growing and you're also continuously pouring into others. And I think a lot of what you said was about, the difference between skill set and, for me, it's style, right? It's empathy. It's depending on how you're showing up for people. So for me, that's kind of the biggest thing. But you're right. If you've got somebody that wants to be in the middle, that's your hypo. That's somebody that needs to be poured into.
Paige, any thoughts on the skills versus strengths?
So I think it also kind of depends on the situation that comes up. We had a person that we were considering for presidency for one of the associations, and she came in to do an interview, and we kind of laughed when she left because we were like, there were little angels above her head singing and lights coming down, and it was like, oh, like she is it, she's going to be great. She had the business acumen to handle the situation. She had the experience, she had the leadership qualities, and she ended up being president during COVID. And then she completely shut down because everyone was going to die and we're going to have funerals. This was her mindset, was that everyone was going to die and we're going to be going to funerals of all of the members. And so she completely shut down. And I was immediate past president at the time. And then our president-elect had to kind of try to pick her up, but also run with the association because she was kind of in a puddle on the floor. So it just kind of, I think, depends on that too. I mean, you can have the greatest qualities and skills, and then something comes up that you can't handle, either personally, emotionally, physically, and it could change the whole situation. So I think that that's where building that team that can be supportive when that situation occurs, and can, obviously you don't want to do someone's job for them either, because that doesn't help them and doesn't help you. But if you can support them enough so that they can kind of get over the hump and continue on, I think that's what makes a good team.
That's a great story, Paige. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it really, you really outline a really great way that you can rally around someone when they're in a time that they're struggling. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing to do when you've got people on a team that are trying to work cohesively together. I think that's really cool. Well, Sharon, Paige, Christy, this has been an awesome pre-symposium panel. I had a final question, but we do not have time to cover that right now. But I'm so grateful to have you all here. I'm so glad that we could cover all these core points. This was such an engaging conversation. I was very intrigued with your responses, and I really enjoyed them a lot. If you're watching this and you're thinking to yourselves, I want to meet Sharon, Paige, or Christy, you can. Come to our upcoming executive symposium on December 7th. It'll be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'll put the link in the comments to RSVP. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks for your time, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.